Thinking about launching a podcast but overwhelmed by all the moving parts? At Turnkey Podcast Productions, we take the hassle out of podcasting so you can focus on the talk, not the tech. From concept to launch, guest booking to post-production, we handle everything. Need a strategy to grow your show and turn guests into clients? Yep, we do that too. DIY or done for you, we've got the solution that fits. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, Turnkey is your behind-the-scenes podcast team. Turnkey Podcast Productions. Your voice, your message, fully produced. Learn more at turnkeypodcast.com/contact. That's turnkeypodcast.com/contact.
Coming up today on the Nice Guys on Business.
When you start publishing content, if you take a podcast and you put 30 clips together from it and you take the 10 best or the 15 best or whatever, and you publish that content at volume, you will start to see who is responding and what the concepts are that they're responding to. And from there, you can answer that question additionally. Now, the nice thing is we can pair those two things together to say, here's our keyword research, here's what we know our audience cares about. How do we help you record new episodes with those considerations in mind? And again, I go back to what I said. I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago when you and Strick and I were talking. When you have one of those clips that pops off and it gets 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 views, you believe in the product and you want to do more. I promise you will.
Right.
And then you will start to be like, okay, well, how do we get this more free? It's a dopamine sort of rush. You know what I mean?
The Nice Guys on Business are putting the band back together. They're on a mission from God. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by Turnkey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. I know I say that all the time, but today I actually mean it. We're doing something a lot different today. I'm bringing on a Turnkey team member, Scott Sutter. He was introduced to me by Scott Sutter.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right.
He made his way into my life, or into Turnkey's life, with a marketing email. And it captivated me, and I was hooked from day one. And then I saw the magic that Scott was doing for his clients from a marketing perspective and SEO also with his former life. And I thought Turnkey needs this. So I did what any good entrepreneur would do. I hired Scott because I know I don't know anything about that stuff, and Scott knows a lot about it. We're going to talk about all about getting the most eyeballs and eardrums on your podcast episodes. Talk about marketing your business if you're not a podcaster. We'll talk about that as well. And how to get the most bang from your buck out of your marketing dollars. Scott, I'm excited to chat with you. Welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Yeah. I'm super pumped to be here as well. I know when I initially sent that email out, ultimately what I was trying to do, I believe, was offer the marketing solution to your podcast, to the podcast that I'm sitting on right now.
Right.
And your response was sort of like, well, hey, what if we did this for, instead of me, what if we did this for, 70 of our clients or what have you? And that also piqued my interest because that would be fantastic. And I think that's one of the exciting things we're going to be talking about today.
I was just trying to figure out a way how to angle around not having to pay for any services. So
yeah, fair enough. Hey, expert move.
That would be it. Well, as any entrepreneur would like to do, I'd like to do this in barter, please. How do I make this happen? And we hit Scott at the cross section of trying to figure out if this would be good for Turnkey. At the same time, Scott was not 100% in love with the position that he was holding for many years with the company that he was with. I'm not going to get into dragging any company through the mud or push anybody under the bus for it. But I'd love to talk about where opportunity lies in this completely technology-driven society that we're living in. And Scott, you figured out a lot of that stuff. So maybe if we go back a handful or so years and just talk about why did you see the significance, or where did you see the writing on the wall with what was about to happen with getting more eyeballs and eardrums exposed to content?
Yeah, I mean that's a just an absolutely perfect segue really into the conversation. So I traditionally come from the world of performance marketing from a SEO perspective, SEO and paid advertising. which obviously is a function of Google and other search engines, right? So while YouTube technically is one of those, most of the time people are going to go to the internet, they're going to go to a search engine, they're going to search a key phrase or a key term, and then they're going to be given a list of options. And if they don't get the answer they're looking for, what are they going to do? They're going to go back to the search bar and they're going to get more specific, right? They're going to search for something different. That is a very sort of like antiquated concept as you think about what AI is doing to the parameters of how people are going to the internet and asking for information. People are actually having full conversations now with Google to try to find what they're looking for. They're going to other LLMs. They're going to Claude and ChatGPT and Grok and everything else. So a couple of years ago, as SEO continued to sort of go through some evolution, it really became evident that like information that Google could glean and pull from a website was going to allow that website to generate more what's called knowledge-based trust. So we saw companies starting to add more and more and more content to their website and didn't necessarily know, and maybe Google didn't know this either, but they're super smart, so they probably did. We didn't really know where that was headed, but you started to see these featured snippets pop up a couple of years ago where it's like, hey, I searched something, and instead of giving me 10 results, I actually get a paragraph of information, which means I don't have to click on anything. So I'm giving you all of this background to say, as that started to shift, in my mind, I was starting to think, okay, well, some companies, the gap between companies that are willing to do SEO is starting to grow here, because if you're right in that sweet spot of like, well, you need to spend $4,000 in order to compete, kind of in your realm. Well, I don't have $4,000 to spend per month, so I'm not going to do SEO. I'm going to pull back.
Right.
Versus the companies that are so that bottom rung starts to go down a little bit, where it's like, $4,000, can we do it for $1,500? And then on the upper side, you had companies seeing that and saying, okay, well, let's invest more and more and more and more so that we are the experts and we're the ones that stand out in our market and in our industry. So at the other side, you had companies that were, willing to spend more and more and more. So really competitive got really expensive, and then just kind of, quotation marks, doing the right thing of spending a little bit on SEO, that became, almost commoditized. And then you introduced AI into the mix. And now everybody can use ChatGPT to write their content and do yada, yada, whatever. So the competitive nature also of this content output is evolving because so many people are using AI to write their content for them. So as I saw some of this starting to develop in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, marketing is starting to kind of grow and evolve in and of itself. And one thing that I just believe in at a very, very deep level is social media and the visibility that you can generate on social media paired with valuable content. So what is valuable content? Well, it's anything that is information that I need to have spoken from somebody who has experience, has expertise, has authority, right? Now, written copy and SEO is starting to trend in that direction as well. You see now content that does really well has these little like written by such and such CEO now at the very top. It's what's called an EEAT score. And I'm going to try to get this right. It's experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. EEAT. Well, you establish all of that with video content automatically. You don't have to tether that published by or written by to a profile on some platform somewhere that gives an overview of who you are. If you're a subject matter expert and you're on a podcast like this and you say something like, hey, the 20 years I spent in the sales world selling to C-suite executives and the $10 million a year that I sold, yada, 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 you establish that authority like that, right? Now somebody's going to stop and they're going to listen to you. And if you do a good enough job, what are they going to do? They're going to come back next week when you publish another episode. They're going to come back next time you put a clip out there on social media. So taking that long format video and finding a way to compartmentalize it or rather fragment it into smaller clips and distribute it off social, it achieves two things. One, it distills your subject matter expertise into these bite-sized clips that you can deploy and send to your audience at scale. The second thing it does is it removes the need for you to spend 30, 40, 50 minutes a day recording yourself to post on social. You're the CEO of the company. You're the coach. You're the consultant. You're the lawyer. You're the whoever. You can't carve that time out every single day to record something and then publish something for your small business. But If you have a podcast recorded once a month, you can take that podcast and turn it into a bunch of different clips, a bunch of different blogs, a bunch of different emails, a bunch of different LinkedIn posts. And now you can actually service 5 to 6 channels of marketing within 20 minutes per day, all of those channels, because you already spent the 45 minutes to get the collateral ready to roll. So as I saw what unlocks the ability to be omni-channel so efficiently is long format video, because video is dominating all the social channels anyways right now. It kind of the pieces sort of just like fit together perfectly, right? And I know that was a long-winded response
No,
to your question.
I was going to ask you, can you boil all of that down to maybe a 60-second answer? Because I'd love to be able to share that answer so that people that can then, oh, I get it now, and then go back and re-listen to what Scott just said. Because while I absorbed it, I've been immersed in it for the last couple of months since we started talking. So boil it down to 60 seconds and share that, and let's see how we can do with that.
Yeah, perfect. So taking long format video, right? Let's say you start with 45 minutes of video content. I can distribute that video content into 5 to 6 different channels, investing 45 minutes once per month in recording that video, and then 15 to 20 minutes a day actually distributing that content. So 45 minutes becomes 30 clips, 4 blogs, 8 emails, and about 20 LinkedIn posts.
Wow.
It also becomes... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you're taking this long form content like a podcast interview, whether you're the host of the podcast or even a guest on a podcast, and you're taking that and you're breaking it down into many, many, many different, because people consume content differently. Some people like to read blog posts. Some people like to watch short form video content. Some people like to read Twitter tweets or X tweets or whatever it is. So all of these things are created out of this long form video content. Is that right?
That's exactly right. That's right.
So is the whole idea to get more now there's a difference between just getting eyeballs or eardrums on podcast episodes, long form and short form. There's a difference between getting people to look and watch and then to take action. How do we get them into the next step? Who is determining what is action worthy? Is that us as marketers? Is that maybe you can just enlighten me a little bit.
Yeah. So it's an interesting ask, right? Ultimately, we want to tether everybody back to what I sort of refer to as sort of a pinch point, right? So you think about like an hourglass. You've got all the sand up top, all the sand down at the bottom. Now that sand has to travel through the same exact point, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pull people from our social channels, pull people from our long format video on YouTube, pull people from the audio into some form of engagement. Now you can add those call to actions to the clips. You can add those call to actions to the blogs, to the long format, to the short format in the form of like typically subscribe, right? So if we ask somebody to subscribe, to get involved with us, on our newsletter, to do something in some capacity in one of these marketing outputs that they've seen.
Engage.
That's right. We can be as simple as subscribe. I'm a big believer in sort of that like stair-step approach to adding value, right? So if the free value we add right out of the gate is, hey, subscribe and you'll get more good advice or more good insight or more XYZ, well then, if you get enough subscribers, there's a good starting point. But if you have a lead magnet that you have proven out is dynamic, that you've proven out can get people interested, well, basically you have a pile of gunpowder, and all we need is the match of throwing this content out there.
I got it. So the engagement is really the lighter fluid and the ignition, and we just need the engagement. Some people have great content. If you have a great message, but you're the world's best kept secret, that's not going to get you. That's not going to get you anywhere. I remember when we had one of our initial conversations. One of the things that impressed me so much about what you've done is it's not just you've done this for your clients, you've done this for yourself and your wife as well. So maybe can you go back and maybe explain the popularity of one of the channels that you've been working with? I know you shared a case study of your own self.
That's right. So the first thing I'll say on that regard is like it takes time and it takes volume. Right. So in December of last year, 2024, I had about 800 subscribers on my Instagram channel. Today I have, I'll pull it up real quick. and again, I always tell this, I give this as an anecdote, and people typically they want to respond with like, "Oh, good for you." And I try to tell people, it's like, I'm not bragging about this. I'm just telling you, like, this is not completely fake or made up, right? So right now, I don't know if you can see it, but it says 11,000 some odd. You can see the
Nice.
reflection of
Yeah, I can
my,
see that. I can see
my
that.
pop can there. 11,100 followers. So in 7 months or so, I've generated about 11,000 followers, about 10,500 followers. So the point of me sharing that is, and my wife started probably 2 years ago. She had about 6,000 followers. Just over the weekend, she hit 50K.
Nice.
Now, you have some people that hit 50K in a weekend and then they skyrocket from there, and they just have something that people are interested in, or they have a format of a video or a type of content, or a repeat formula that can get them engagement and viewership every time they post, because they do the same thing every single time. And it just, ASMR is a good example of this. It just connects with people. They just want to watch, they want to listen, whatever. But her and I, we do mostly like marriage content, wife content, husband content, male men content, women content. So there's really nothing like super substantial about our about our Instagram channels. It's not like, oh, they're 7 feet tall and their stuff is all about being tall and that's
Right.
really funny. No, it's literally just like relatable husband and wife content. We live on a mini farm homestead, so people like that. She does the kind of naturalistic, no dye, no refined sugar thing, so people engage with that. But my stuff literally is just me being a goof and putting content out there, and people engage with it.
Sounds like Strick and I are a Friday episode. So
That's right. And it's great because it's mostly just footage I already have in my camera of us living our lives, and I add some creative kind of like information to it, or kind of clever written copy. And every once in a while, and this is my whole thing, Doug, every once in a while, we'll post 10 clips and one of them will catch fire. And it'll get 100,000 or 500,000 or 1,000,000 views. And my belief on this, and until I have 100 case studies that all fall flat and there's clear evidence that I'm just out of my mind, my belief on this is, if you put 100 clips out, or 150 clips out, or 200 clips out, once you reach a certain critical mass, you will figure out what your audience will engage with, and you will lean into that, and you will grow.
So, in other words, what you're saying is that the people that are putting out just podcast content or video content alone, that's just one part of the equation. It's not just build it and they will come. It's build it, market it, and they will come. We've always been really flat-footed when it comes to marketing. I mean, since day one, Strick and I have professed not to be experts in anything marketing related, and we have proven ourselves over and over and over again.
Sure.
The amount of money that we have spent in marketing and have done pretty much nothing until you came on board with us. And what I love about this is that it takes an effort to create content that goes places, and we just don't know how to do that. So can you maybe share some of the keys to either engagement, or where do people start? Like, people are creating the content right now. I mean, if you're listening and you're a turnkey client, you're creating podcast content already. If you have a YouTube channel, you're creating YouTube content already. If you're a Instagrammer and you do lives, or if you do Facebook lives or Reels or Instagram live, you're already creating the content. But it sounds like that's just one part of the equation, and unless you have these other follow-up parts, probably aren't seeing the impact of your content that you want to. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, the way that I would, I'm an analogy guy, right? So the analogy that I would use, and you're a car guy. If I just put gasoline in the tank of my car, am I going to get to where I need to go?
Well, you could, but you need directions how to get
there.
You
go.
You probably need some other stuff.
You need a heartbeat to drive. You
Right,
need some other things to actually get to where you want to go. So, the thing that I tell people all the time, and this is also true in written copy and SEO, don't write blogs without having a strategy and a target to aim those at, because you don't know what people care about. You don't know what people will engage with. And there's two ways to go about this when it comes to social content and YouTube content, or video and podcast content, just information in general. The first one is, you can absolutely do keyword research for visual and audio content. 1,000% you can. When we at the former company that I worked at, when we built content, we did keyword research first because we needed to validate if there was an audience for what we were searching for. And that can be tough when you're talking to somebody who is a subject matter expert, because they want to say,
yeah,
well, we're thought leaders.
Right.
We are, we're building the wheel as we talk. And the problem with that is that, like, well, then you're generating something that people have no idea about.
Yeah, it's kind of like creating the course and then hoping that you can sell the course to a market that is out there. It might be better instead in doing that and putting all of your effort and energy and money and resources into that. It might be better to find out from your market what it is that they want. So you're saying reverse engineer the content so that you find out what your market is searching for and then create content about that. How do you find subject matter experts? And I would say that the majority of our clients are subject matter experts in whatever it is that they do, whether it's law, finance, medical, entrepreneurship. How do you go to somebody that's a subject matter expert and say, well, we can do it two ways. We can do it the long way, which is you just keep providing us the content. We'll figure out what it is that and kind of crowbar it into your market. Or I could go out there to your market and reverse engineer this and tell you what your market wants content about. How do you find that's received by subject matter experts?
It's a great question. I'm going to answer that question, and then it'll open the door to the second way that you can discover what your audience cares about. To be honest with you, I'd say the reception that we've gotten to encouraging subject matter experts up to this point, the clients that we're working with, the reception has been very positive to, like, hey, these are ideas that we know have search volume on YouTube, ideas that we know have search volume on Google. Mm-hmm. Like that's worth leaning into a little bit. The reception to that concept has been very positive. So I've been encouraged by that. Like, nobody yet has been like, absolutely not, you don't know what you're talking about, get out of here, marketing guy, right? Like, no, right. They've been really receptive to it. But it opens up the door for the second way that you can discover what your audience cares about. And this one hurts a little bit more, but it's important. The volume play will answer that question. When you start publishing content, if you take a podcast and you put 30 clips together from it and you take the 10 best or the 15 best or whatever, and you publish that content at volume, you will start to see who is responding and what the concepts are that they're responding to. Mm-hmm. And from there, you can answer that question additionally. Now, the nice thing is we can pair those two things together to say, here's our keyword research, here's what we know our audience cares about. How do we help you record new episodes with those considerations in mind? And again, I go back to what I said. I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago when you and Strick and I were talking. When you have one of those clips that pops off and it gets 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 views, you believe in the product and you want to do more. I promise you will. Right. And right. Then you will start to be like, okay, well, how do we get this more free? It's a dopamine sort of rush. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. So how do you take that? Because that has to translate at some point in order to be successful. It has to translate into business. And so it's not just, again, I don't want to leave people hanging with, well, you'll have 1 million views or 500,000 or even 10,000 views on a particular clip, and that will be the foundation by which this, your springboard, which everything else comes. Nothing happens until we sell something. So, that's right. Okay, so how do you now go to the next step? Because creating the content is one, creating the collateral is two, creating popular, engaged collateral is three, but then what happens next in the process?
Yeah, good question. So when somebody engages and when they follow you or download something or go to your landing page even, right? They are in some way giving you permission for something. If I follow your account, I'm giving you permission to get back in front of me, right?
Right.
So what I tell people is, like, when you generate followers, that does not mean like these followers that I have, I'm not getting money from them, right? Like, they're not paying me. They're just seeing my content more frequently than non-followers. And the funny thing about social is, like, most of the content that I publish gets more views from much more views from non-followers than it does from my actual followers.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah. So the piece there is, when somebody follows you, there's different layers and elements to engage with them on a deeper level. And most of what we're doing right now with Turnkey is meta, and it's YouTube. So on Meta, the way that you actually engage those followers is by going deeper in your stories. Stories, you can publish links, you can get them to navigate away from Instagram and onto your landing page. When they follow you, they've given you permission to ultimately get back in front of them in the format of stories, right? So that's how you go deeper with, in my opinion, with your Instagram followers, to try to nudge them along and get them into your sales funnel, get that call to action moving. And you can push stories out there all the time. Most of the time I don't get views on my stories from people that are not actively following me, right?
Right. I got that. Okay, so take me to the next step now. Talk to the novice that's out there, someone that is brand new at this, or maybe starting podcasting but hasn't quite figured, or even starting their own business and hadn't figured out, well, what are all of the components that are involved? So can you walk me through how to actually help people? It sounded like you said something about a landing page. You said something about Instagram stories. You said something about multiple video shorts.
Yeah.
Where do you find time to do all this? How do you create this? And is this something that only you can do as the marketing expert, or can they do this if they wanted to on their own? Or
yeah.
I know we prefer if they use us to do the services, but is this something that a human being that's got a side hustle can do on their own, or is it challenging?
Yeah, right. So Doug, I've got 5 kids, and I'm married to a absolutely just incredible woman. I only work like 23 and a half hours a day. So that's how I do it all. No, I'm joking. So we have obviously a playbook, which, we'll make available. You can download the playbook that walks you through exactly how to build this system out. In fact, it'll probably be linked in the show notes, how you can get to that playbook and ultimately download it. In addition to that, the concepts there are knowing the software, knowing how to take the actual collateral and use the software to turn it into what's market ready to actually publish. Mm-hmm. And then it is consistently publishing it. It's actually doing the manual labor of publishing it. So it's strategy, having the tech stack, which we've already invested in, so we already have it, right? Then it's knowing the tricks of the trade to actually publish content that's going to get views, knowing how to do the keyword research, knowing how to get it onto the platforms, knowing when to publish it, all that different stuff. Then it's also making sure you have that landing page in place, which we build for our clients when they need one. We will actually build that for our clients, right? So we build a platform to pull people back to, and we link it in all of their social channels. So when somebody does engage on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, they can get to that landing page and then get pulled into an actual marketing funnel. One thing that we consult on that we don't actually execute for our clients right now is the lead magnet. Now, we may do that in the future, but if you have a great lead magnet, awesome. If you don't, then it's going to take a little bit more reps to get people to actually come to your landing page, which is totally fine. But again, it then from there, all of that strategy, all of the tech stack, all of that information, that's great to know and it's great to have. But then it turns into the consistent publishing and distributing and going on LinkedIn and going and emailing your list and doing all that stuff, which we do for you. So yes, you can do it on your own by downloading our playbook and then actually walking through how to do it. But I think it's always easier to work with people who have been there before, know how to do it, can do it efficiently and effectively, and then are accountable to the results, right? And have to report on how it's performing.
Strick and I have talked about this many times, and I know Nice Guy community and Turnkey community, you've heard us say this oftentimes, is that our zone of genius totally is not marketing. Our zone of genius is in podcast production, knowing how to launch, grow, distribute the podcast episodes. And this was the missing link that we know, and we're counting on, we're banking on it. We've put our money where our mouth is. We've brought on a team member, Scott, that will be able to do this not only for us, but for our clients too. We've just seen too many opportunities go lost because you're taking your content to a certain level and then, okay, what happens now? I don't think that the magic is having more listeners, more people that are out there that are listening to your podcast. I think the key is to having the right people listen to your podcast. Again, I joke about this all the time on the show. It's like, I'd rather have 20 people taking action than 200,000 listening and doing nothing. So get the right 20 people, get the right 50, get the right couple hundred. Eventually, you could have a very large audience listening to your content, but if you're not doing anything with them or doing the right stuff with them, or if you're sharing a message with an audience that's large but isn't taking action, what's the point of having the ego metric of having the downloads?
right.
One of the other things I know that we're going to talk about, and we haven't quite formulated the plan for this, and maybe we can work some of this out right now in the next couple of minutes, Scott, is the idea of you coming on and talking about marketing, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, maybe something like that as an extra co-host on the Nice Guys on Business. Is that something that you'd be open to?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. So, again, jokingly, cameras love me, as I like to say. My wife and I, we've done a marriage podcast for a couple of years now. I've been kind of itching to get a marketing podcast up and running, and there's kind of this perfect marriage, I think, of like, again, my zone of genius, which is really talking marketing strategy and deployment. And I was in engineering in college. So while I'm full of hot air and can talk forever, my brain is a little bit more like data oriented. So I get real just excited about the data side of marketing, the performance side of marketing, which I think is why SEO was so cool to me, right? So all of that being said, yes, absolutely, being able to facilitate marketing conversations as they relate to video content, podcasting, and what you can take that kind of marketing collateral and evolve it into and multiply it into. 100%, I would love to kind of host an episode or co-host episodes with you guys to make sure that we have just kind of the answers for individuals that are looking for like a little bit more kind of visibility or kind of exposure out there with their direct audience, or even are curious on like, well, hey, what if I'm not ready to actually deploy that full-blown strategy, but I do want to kind of figure out how do I make myself more effective? How do I make my podcast more effective? Well, there's always just a research component to that too, right? It's understanding like, hey, how come my episodes seem to be falling flat? Okay, well, you're talking about these topics that don't get any search volume. You're talking about things that maybe people aren't either ready to hear about or just haven't been searching for a while now. So being able to equip podcasters with that type of information as well is something that we're hoping to bring to the fold. And I would love to, be able to provide that information in a direct capacity, even if it's in like even the live demo format on podcasts, and just show them, here's how we do it. You know what I mean?
All right. So if you have any interest in hearing more about how this is done, we'll figure out what the link is going to be, but we'll put it in the show notes. It's going to be for Scott's playbook with Turnkey. So you can see not just about creating a higher visibility podcast, but a higher visibility business. If you have any inclination or any desire to check it out, just head over to the show notes and click the link there. Scott, I'm excited to have you on the team. I am very fortunate to have gotten that marketing email from you. And I know that Strick and I are very happy to have someone on board that we can say, we don't know this shit, but somebody else does on our team. Scott, thanks for being on the show today.
Absolutely, man. I'm really excited to be partnered with you guys, and I'm looking forward to many great conversations to come.
Hey, Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of a really smart marketing guy on your team. Special thanks to Scott Sutter. All of his information, including that link to his playbook right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.